Now from this point on, we're going to start setting up the UVs and the materials for our game geometry. The materials don't have anything to do with how the character is going to look. They're really just to separate out the different pieces that we want. And so when we take this into Substance Painter, it's going to look at those materials, and each one of those is going to be separated out. And so, for instance, if we had something that was all the wood pieces, for instance, we could put on one material and one UV map. And that way we don't have to spread those material properties across a bunch of different materials. We can actually have one that is more focused on the wood parts, one that is more focused on the gold parts, etc. So let's go ahead and start with the eyes. And the eyes are going to consist of 3 materials. And because nothing else is going to be on those UV maps, each part of the eye can take up the entire UV space. So I'm going to go ahead and open up our UV editor. And let me just drop it over on the side here. All right. And then I also want to open up the hypershade. So the outer part of the eye already has a material because it's transparent. So we know it already is a separate material. It's this blend 7. We'll call this eye outer. And if you ever want to confirm what pieces of geometry are assigned to what, you can go in and right click on this and say select objects with material. So we've got the outer part of the eye. Let's look at the UVs. So the UVs for the outer part are set up like this. So this is the one pole of the sphere, and this is the other pole. And so we're not going to be adding a texture to this. And so we could actually leave this as is if we wanted to. If you turn on your checkerboard, you can see the pattern here. Now, one thing I will notice is the fact that the squares are a little bit squashed. And so if we actually take this and scale it down in the Y, we'll actually make those a little bit more regular. And you can see though, how when they come into the pole, what that looks like. So you basically got seams all across there. So if we wanted to make this a little bit cleaner, the way I'll do this with spheres is I'll usually go ahead and let's just cut this down the center. And actually it's going to be going this direction. So I'll create a cut kind of like that. Get our tools back, and I want to cut this, and then let's go ahead and connect all these central edges up. So we'll go so, same thing down here. Now let's double click on each of these shells and we'll do an unfold and an unfold like that. And then I'm just going to take this, sew it together. And so, and then we're basically going to get these 2 circles. All right, so we can take these and lay them out like that if you want to. You could have left it the other layout as well. It's fine. Your texture is just going to depend on how your layout is created. So we've got that added. The next thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that we have a material on the inner eye. And so let's take a look at our eye group. And here's the inner eye. We need to do the same thing with the UVs. And if we go into the attribute editor, we can see what materials actually assigned, this Lambert 1. And so because I don't want the default material on there, I want a separate material, I'll go ahead and create a new one. And this Lambert 10 I'll call eye inner. And then I want to assign that to our inner eye. So the material is assigned. Let's cut this one. Okay, I'm going to turn the outer eye off. For the inner eye, let's go ahead and cut it kind of right here. So I'll cut it, and we'll do the same thing we did before. This time we only have one pole, which is the back of it. So sew that together, unfold, sew and unfold, and then this one as well. And this one, I'm actually going to leave flat like this. Because of the way the eye texture is created, there's a lot of lines coming down from the edges into this part. And so think about, we're painting a texture. If this was the front of the eye, we'd have to paint going all the way around, or we'd have to have some sort of procedural that would go all the way around in a specific area. Whereas if we have this set up, all we have to do is paint straight lines, which if we're using a procedural to get an effect, it's going to be a lot easier to accomplish. You can see this is the inside, and then we've got the outside. I do want to go in and just clean this up. So right now you can see these aren't spaced out appropriately. So I'm going to take this top edge and move it down until these are a little bit closer to what we want. And then the back edge, you can see how those are a little bit smushed. I'm going to go ahead and pull those in a bit, kind of like that. We'll take this one, pull those in a bit. And we'll just kind of space it out so that it's a little bit nicer, matches a little bit better with what we want. And I'm also going to move the seam to the inside. So right there, let's go ahead and cut it. Select these edges and we'll stitch them over to the other side. Turn off our checker pattern. Let's scale everything down a little bit. And you do want to make sure everything is inside of your 0 to 1 space. So something like that. And again, because we have the only material is going to be on this, then we can have that take up the whole space. And the eyes are going to be identical, so each eye can share the same material and UV space. So let's go ahead and add the pupil. Pupil is also assigned to Lambert 1. So let's go ahead and create a new material. I'm just going to create a surface shader, and we'll call this eye pupil. And let's assign it to the eye. All right, and then let's just grab these faces. And I'm just going to do a quick planar map. And I'll go into the options and let's use best plane. And now I will scale it down a little. Okay, so now our eye inner, our pupil, and our eye outer all have UV layouts completed and they have materials created for them. So because of that, we can now take our eye and you can see where one of the I think it's the pupil is red. And so what I want to do is we have the shaded turned on. We turn that off. You don't see that red. If you do see the red, all I'm going to do is flip this. Let me go up to modify and we'll just flip it. Make sure I got it selected. Go up to modify and go to flip. And so it turned blue. Blue is what we want, just because red is going to indicate a reversed normal, which in this case is probably not going to make a big difference because it's going to be in the same area. The geometry is all going to be the same. And so once we have that, I'm going to take the eye group that we have, Control G to group it, and then I'm going to Control D to duplicate it and flip it in the X by going -1. We'll freeze the transformations. And now you can see here, those UVs are reversed. And so we'll actually leave those reversed so the material can be exactly the same on both of them. The texture can be exactly the same. All right. So let me take our eye groups out of their duplication group. We'll get rid of those extra groups there. And we can start to call this something like eye group right, eye group left. Okay, and we can freeze the transformations on that initial one. And now our eyes are ready to go into Substance Painter. So the next thing that we want to do are take care of the gold pieces in much the same way. So as I complete these, I'm going to go ahead and turn the visibility of them off so that I know what's done, what hasn't been done. So next, we'll take a look at the gold pieces and how we can incorporate all of those into the scene. Do that next. Now let's set up our gold pieces with some UVs and a material separation. And so let's first create a material. I've got one created here, gold. Doesn't matter what kind of material it is. I've called it gold. And let's go ahead and change the color of it to, guessed it, gold. And again, this is just temporary. And now we're going to select the pieces that we want to be gold. So I'll select the two parts of the hinge and the hook, all of the buckle, pieces on this side. And then we can also include the necklace and the medallion here. So go ahead and right click and say assign to material. And we can make sure that that's assigned. That back piece is a different material. It happens to be a similar color. And so now what we want to do is create UVs for each individual piece and then place them on the same map. All right. So the medallion, we want to be a pretty prominent part of this. So I'll go ahead and let's just do an automatic map. Okay. And then this is going to be the back and this is going to be the front. So I'll concentrate my efforts a little bit more on the front. Let's go ahead and take both of these where we can see there are pieces missing and stitch them. And so there's actually, I would normally cut this off, but there's actually enough room in here to fit all of these. And so what I'm going to do is just come in, select the other ones, stitch those bits on, stitch those on, and then let me go ahead and unfold it. I can select all of these, and then let me pull this away a little bit more. I'm going to select all of these edges, deselect any of the ones that are on here, go ahead and stitch those, and unfold. Now there is one little bit here, and so I'm actually going to include those here. So I'm going to take and cut all of these off. So I'll go ahead and just cut everything, and then let's select that. We'll deselect these interior edges and do another stitch. I should get everything on this front one. Unfold it again. Here we can take our edges, sew those together, unfold that, and now we have our medallion. We can check it with the checker pattern, and that looks pretty good. And so I'm going to move this off. I want that to be pretty big in here, and a lot of these other pieces aren't going to need that much. And so on this one, we do another automatic map. You can see here, you might want to bevel that top if it's a little bit too sharp, but otherwise you can go ahead and grab these pieces. I'll select the side and think about it like a cardboard box. So we know we want to leave a little bit open. So I'm just going to work my way to the left. And then when we get to this side, this is actually the side that wraps around. So we'll want to leave that. Do the same thing here. And let's bring this one in. And just like that. And now we know that there are pieces on either side as well. So we'll bring that one in, that one, that one. And now there's some stragglers here. Let's stitch that on. If you want to go ahead and stitch the ends, that'll work too. And just unfold it just like that. So I'm going to leave it like that. And we'll do the other ones as well. You can see there's a couple of pieces here. This is going to go on this end. And then this one right here. And then you just want to make the same deal there. Now for the necklace part, I would take several of the pieces. And when I'm doing a rounded or a loop like this, usually what I'll do is take the ones, because you'll get some pieces that are on the automatic map that get strung out like this, which is more what we want. And then you'll have some that make the entire loop. I don't actually want the entire loop. And so I'm going to use the straight ones as my bases. And then I'm going to cut the rounded ones. So I'm just cutting them. I don't care about them at all. And so what I want to do then is get one of these bases, kind of straighten it a little bit, and then I can start to take the edges on the side, stitch those together, and then same thing. I'm just going to go around until I get to the side that intersects with the other side. Okay, so now I've got the entire thing. I've got one section of it basically. If you smooth this, you can see we get a nice straight line. Okay, and so then I would just do the next section. You could stitch that together. You could even start with one of these and just do the ones that are already straight, right, in the exact same way. And at this point, I don't know if my seams are going to match up, but it'll be really easy to fix it if they don't. Fill those in, unfold, nice and straight. So I'm going to just go through and start making some nice straight chunks here. As you get some that are a little bit less straight, let's grab this one maybe. You can sort of straighten it manually before we start. I'm just going to grab all these, stitch that. That gives us this one, which we can straighten up. There are also some tools in our UV where we can start to try to straighten the UVs. So we can straighten the shell, we can straighten UVs. You can see some of them work better than others. So you want to go ahead and finish the UVs for the necklace. And then you also want to just do the UVs for the other little bits. And these cylinder pieces are going to be pretty straightforward. You can almost, I mean, they already have UVs because they're made from a cylinder. You could try to just grab the shell and unfold it and see what that looks like. And I think it will almost just work like that. And then you've got the caps, because it's basically a cylinder that's had a little bit of detail added to it. And so something like that, and you're done. On here, you'll have two sections basically. So let's unfold this section, and then you can check that with your checkerboard. And you can see this part is not exactly what we want. And so let's turn that off. And you can take these and you could do an auto map on just one part of it. So like I can tell that this is not meant to be part of that. So I'll cut that, pull this out. And I know I want to put it on this one, so I'll just cut it. So like this, stitch them together. So we're back in business. Now if you unfold it, a lot of times if it's round like this, it'll tend to curve like this. So that's fine. You can do it like that if you want to. Here, what we need is a seam. And so let me grab the edges up here and we'll cut those. And then the edge down at the bottom, we'll cut that. And now when we unwrap this, unfold it, see that? It's nice and efficient. All right, let me sew this together. Now, right now, you can see the difference in the size of these. And so we just want to make sure both pieces have the same size squares on them. So that's a little bit closer. So I'll grab that and move it off. So go in and create individual shells for each one of these. I'm going to pause the video, and then when I come back, I'm going to show you with all of them done, how we can assemble them into one UV layout. All right, I've done some UVs on all of the individual pieces. You can see I've also added a quick bevel, and I actually did that after I did the UVs on the necklace. And so it added in very quickly and easily, just selected those top edges and did a quick bevel. So now what I want to do is organize everything onto one map. And I'm going to go by importance. So the medallion and the necklace are two pieces that I know are going to have a lot of pixels assigned to them, because I know we're going to have normal maps and we want to have a lot of detail with those. So I'm going to put those in first and then fill in the gaps around them. So I know that the necklace, the actual necklace part of it isn't that important. And so I'm actually going to just put those along the edges. So I can put one kind of down here, and they don't have to be physically organized next to each other. You can do that if it makes sense for you, but I'm going to put those down on the corners. The necklace pieces, I'm actually going to scale them up a little bit just because I know that I want to have some nice detail on those. And so now we can organize those in a specific spot. So maybe we could put them over here on the left. Again, your layout doesn't have to be just like mine, but you do want them all within a 0 to 1 space, which is this first quadrant. And you don't want them to overlap. I'm going to go ahead and anything that I see that hasn't been sewed together, I'll fix that while I'm here. All right, so we're organizing everything into this square. We've now got the front of the belt, which this is pretty small compared to the size of the UVs. So I'm going to take all these UVs and scale them down quite a bit. These are the hooks. Let's go ahead and scale those down a bit. And then here's the front of the belt. We'll scale it down in proportion. And then these are the hinges. All right, so now we can start placing things. So I think the belt part is going to be a little bit larger, so we can come in here and start adding in the belt pieces. I have organized them by which part of the belt this is. We can go ahead and move it in like that. This is that square part of the belt. So I'm going to actually just move it over here, kind of like that. Let's bring in the hinge pieces. We can drop them in here. Here we've got our hooks. We can tighten those pieces up, and we might even be able to come in and just pull this down here like this. Or you could put it on the inside as well. Sometimes when you have two pieces like this, you can rotate one of them to maximize the amount of space that they take up. If you've got like a curved piece like this, these as well, you can come in here and really maximize the space that we've got. And I'm leaving, admittedly, a lot of space, but I'm trying to do this quickly. The basic idea is to make sure that as much of this 0 to 1 space is covered as possible without distortion, without overlap, things like that. And then we can grab these gold pieces, bring them in here. We have more room on this side, so maybe rotate it, size it up a little bit. Okay, we just want to make sure we don't have anything touching the edge. Once we have that, we can come in, and if you need to modify the position of any of these, you can. But now we're ready for Substance Painter with our gold pieces. They're assigned to one material, and they share a single UV map. All right, so now with those selected, I'm going to go ahead and hide those so we can start to work on some of the other pieces. So next, let's go ahead and look at the body. So I've gone ahead and I still don't have the body mirrored over. And so we'll do some of the UVs on it. We'll create the mirrored version of it and complete the body geometry. So we'll go ahead and do that next.